Flight attendants only get paid when the door closes. Essentially, flight attendants are only paid their full hourly rate once the aircraft door closes, even though they work hard during boarding, which is arguably the most stressful part of the entire flight. Ellen Church was the first female flight attendant and began flying in 1930. She made an impact on flight attendant requirements that lasted until World War II. She influenced airline companies to implement a plan requiring that all flight attendants be registered nurses. When World War II began, all of the nurses enlisted to help out in the war, so most of the airlines dropped that requirement in order to find workers. Throughout the past 100 years, the airline industry has made many different changes in its hiring regulations. The primary role of the flight attendant was to provide comfort to the traveling public. Minimum qualifications were such that the applicants had to be single, registered nurses. Marriage, pregnancy, or weight gain meant instant job termination, and most stewardesses were forced out of the profession by the age of 32 due to old age. The height and weight of each flight attendant used to be fairly strict. Starting in the 1930s, a girl would have to be between 100 and 118 pounds, between 5 foot and 5 foot 4 inches tall. Additionally, she must also be between the ages of 20 and 26 years old. About 3 decades later, the New York Times ran an ad for an airline that listed the requirements as single women, high school graduate, 20 years of age, height between 5'2" to 5'9", and should weigh between 105 and 135 pounds in proportion to her height. In addition, she must have 20/40 vision without the use of glasses. Today, there are still height and weight restrictions due to safety reasons. An acceptable height for anyone working as a flight attendant for most airlines nowadays is between 4'11" and 6'1". Overall, the requirements in place state that your weight must be proportional to your height. For many years, only females were allowed to hold this role. They were called stewardesses. Not only was the job limited to just women, but specifically single women who were of proper height and weight. If you were hired by an airline and then got married, you were automatically terminated from your job. Even women who were divorced or widowed had a more difficult time becoming a stewardess. Divorced and widowed women might be considered for the position, but only if they did not have children. Thanks largely to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, airlines can no longer discriminate on the basis of race, sex, age, or marital status. This legislation helped transform the job from a short-term endeavor, strictly for young single women, to a long-term career option for virtually anyone. Rules changed throughout the 1970s and 80s, opening up flight attendant positions to men and women regardless of their relationship status. Flight attendants also now have the freedom to be married, have children, and not have the fear of losing their jobs. Today, there are over 100,000 flight attendants in the United States. 70% are female, 30% are male. And according to the Population Research Bureau, half of all flight attendants are age 45 and older. Nearly 22% of them are 55 and older. And over 60% are married, and 1/3 actually now have a college degree as well. The fact still remains, though, that till this day, flight attendants do not get paid for boarding, and they only get paid once the door to the airplane closes. These are Interesting Things with JC.